Okay, well, it's good to be with you and your friends here. Um, when I was told the subject of this podcast was retirement or redirect, I think I commented to you that the word retirement was one I'd always had trouble coming to grips with. I discovered a new word yesterday. Actually, it was given to me by my dentist. I may not pronounce it exactly correctly, is Ikigai. And what it stands for is a passion, direction of your life. But it was fascinating that he gave me this piece of paper, which sums up what is meant by this Japanese word. And it's pretty cool. And I think it has a lot to do with this podcast.
Hey there. Welcome to the Redirect Podcast. This is where we dive into real conversations, share stories, and just hang out talking about finding our purpose in retirement. We're glad you're along for the ride, and let's get into it. Curt, Dale, here we are again. 2026 is off to a roaring start. Today, super special guest, we have John Pepper, former president, CEO, and chairman of the P&G company, as our guest on today's podcast. Before we get going with John, I do have a question for you, though. What is the definition of success in your redirected years?
You know, I'll jump in and right off the bat, I think having John Pepper on our podcast is a success in my redirected years, certainly. But you know, I go back to purpose for me, and you know, success is serving God, serving family, serving community, being a great grandfather. Yeah, I really want to be a great grandfather, and had the chance to practice that last week. But I think it's also about going back and really understanding and knowing what your gifts are and bringing them forward and using them and continuing to not only be who you are, but really step out and use those gifts that God gave you to bring to your family, bring to your community, and to bring to Him. And so being spiritually and physically healthy, that's going to be success for me. Curt, how about you?
Well, it's sort of interesting. I used to ask that question a lot when I was in the work world. But now that I've been out for over 2 years now, I don't define myself with success. I think it's what other people glean from me and what they get from me. It's for others to grab a little piece of me in some way or another. Let it be my sense of humor, my love, my compassion, my desire to serve, my love for the Lord, that sort of trickles into their world that they incorporate.
Let me ask you a question about that, Curt.
Yeah.
So the idea of setting goals that you used to do in your career for so long, right? And there's an element of your redirect strategy that does involve some forecasting that I'm going to go in a certain direction or go a certain place. Do you have any goal-oriented markers relative to success and redirection?
Watching my boys and watching them succeed, as well as enjoying the presence of my wife and being in her space and just being there and being available. That's one thing that Jackie always says. I'm available, however I can help and be there for somebody. But to sit back and see my boys do their thing is an accomplishment. I guess that would probably be a definition for me on success, is seeing my kids and Jackie flourish in life, and knowing that I was a part of it. It is a delight to see.
Fantastic.
What about you? What about you, Adam? Come on now, you can't dodge the bullet.
Well, I think it's a tough one to answer since I am not living in the redirected life post-career.
Well, so how are you seeing success now where you are?
The idea of reshaping what success looks like as a result of going through this podcast process, it's made me rethink the amount of energy that I'm giving to my work. 10 years ago, I had a reckless abandon towards success professionally. And that served its purpose in my life to a large degree, but it did come with some casualties along the way. Stressed relationships, broken relationships, less than ideal health, all of those things, which is not atypical. But now, as I'm looking at another 12 to 15 years of work, I don't think I have such a reckless abandon towards professional success like I did 10 years ago. I think that's a good thing. I like that about my new perspective that I have found as a function of doing this work on the podcast.
I'm going to ask John that question. John, success. What is success in your retirement? Well, how do you see that, and how do you view that now?
Well, I've been retired far longer, I think, than any of you. I retired from Procter & Gamble 22 years ago, believe it or not, and from Walt
Wow.
Disney 13 years ago. Including when I was working, I was kind of lined up with you, Adam. I was a workaholic, no question about it. No, and that wasn't all bad. Of course, it led to a lot of what I was able to accomplish with my late dear wife. But it led to some really not being sensitive enough along the way in terms of how she was feeling at times when I thought everything was hunky dory. And it's a great illustration of how lives do appear differently to different people who are so close to each other, and how important it is to take the time to really understand how another person is feeling and not take it for granted that you know. But as time has gone on, of course, like you, I think each of you have said your grandkids, when I retired, only one of my grandchildren had been born, and they're now 10.
Wow.
The oldest is 22, and the youngest is 11. So I've had these years of growing up. I don't think this was a new concept to me, but the concept of kindness to other people and making a difference in another person's life, no matter what it is, and making sure, or at least as intentionally as one can, making a difference every day in someone's life so that somehow they would feel, even though you wouldn't know it, that they were maybe a bit better off because you were in their life. That has come to be an even more valued thing. Not that it wasn't there at all before. While again, not a bit new, I've continued to pray every day for the wisdom from God to know what I should do and the courage and determination to do it. To pray for the wisdom to know what I designed to do and have the courage and perseverance to do it. That's been a constant. That goes way back in my career, and it lives on right to the day, 87 plus. So that hasn't changed. But the whole perception, I think, today in this world in which we live, which is so devoid of kindness in so many spheres, calls out, it seems to me, even more for kindness in our lives as we convey that to other people. That burns even brighter today for me than it did before, though I think it's always been there growing up in the religion I did, that was certainly a precept that one knows is true, but one prays you can actually do well each day. Certainly seeing grandkids grow up. And the memory of my wife, who passed away 8 months ago, that's a burning thing for me. She's still with me. I know. I ask her questions still, what do you think about this? And she'd often say, you go figure it out. But other times, I'd hear what she'd say. I'd get an answer. It was one I paid attention to. Pay attention. Oh, those are some quick top of mind reflections to that question.
I always talk about my next 30 years. I retired at 70, and I think I want to have another 30, and you're well into your next 30 years and have a lot coming. Do you see things changing for you when you're looking forward now? Are you going to do something again? Are you going to redirect your talents to Other things, what's the next, 30 look like for you, John?
Well, of course, it won't be 30, and that doesn't matter to me. I just hope to be able to make a difference in whatever length it is and whatever number of years God has in mind. I don't think of it that way. And I honestly didn't think about it way back when I retired from Procter in 2002, 2003. I was lucky. And I was lucky in having had things in my life that made it easy to redirect myself. I didn't even think of it as redirection. It was continuation.
Ah,
It was continuation of something I believed in, whether it would be education for kids, mentoring, tutoring, involvement with Yale University, but it could have been any place. But it was continuation with the Freedom Center, which I had an involvement in, creation of the National Underground Railroad Freedom Center. I knew that was a journey that wasn't over. I'd been in it when I was employed with Procter and Gamble, but now I could play the role of a volunteer. There's so many things that need volunteer effort that can be informed by business discipline. Boy, have I ever found that to be true. Nonprofits are crying out for the discipline that business people generally have acquired in their career and that are desperately needed with all these very, very good meaning, good practicing people. But to join a board, to be an advisor, to help them succeed, whether it's domestic violence, which my wife was so concerned about, mentoring and tutoring, or schooling, all these things. We have so much work to do in this world, and passions and capabilities that you acquire along the way, though you may not think about it every moment, are applicable to these things and can make the world a bit better. That's what we're trying to do, isn't it? Make the
Oh, yeah.
world a bit better, just a bit better. That's enough. Well, maybe we can do something huge, but at least try to make it a bit better through personal relationships and helping an organization. It's all about people and value. You all know that. It's all about people and values. And we are people. If we can bring ourselves as people to an organization to help them, and we've got good values. I think we have good values we've acquired. And if we can share them and frankly be lifted by the values of people in nonprofits, I can't tell you how much I have gained from people who take care of me right now in this house, who are going through tough lives. Make mine look like a walk in the park, but they're inspiring to push on yourself.
So, John, you referenced your business background. Dale, how do you feel about reading in John's bio so the rest of our listeners have full breadth of John's experience?
Let me do that. Today's friend of the Redirect podcast is John Pepper. In short, John is a highly successful American business leader and civic advocate. He has a distinguished career at Procter & Gamble, joined in 1963, rising to president in 1986, and later served as CEO and chairman from 1995 through 1999, then as chairman of the board from 2000 until 2002. After leaving P&G, John served as vice president of finance and administration at Yale University from 2004 until 2005. He also played a key role in civic initiatives, co-founding the Cincinnati Youth Collaborative, which he very nicely asked me to play a role in. Helped to establish the National Underground Railroad Freedom Center, and later became the CEO and honorary chair. In 2007, John served as chairman of the board of the Walt Disney Company, a role he held until his retirement in 2012. He's also served on the boards of companies like Boston Scientific and Xerox and Motorola. John holds a BA from Yale University and served in the U.S. Navy. He is the author of books including What Really Matters, Service, Leadership, People, and Values. And he recently released his latest book, 100 Books That Shaped My Life, Reflections on a Lifetime of Reading. Not only is John an accomplished writer, he's also got a blog entitled Pepperspectives, Sharing Lessons and Learnings. In recognition of his leadership and community service, he has received the honors such as the honorary doctorate from the University of Cincinnati. John was married to Francie for 57 years until she passed last April of this year. He has 4 children, 10 grandchildren. John, we are welcoming you to the podcast, and already we've had some great conversation and a couple additional questions we have for you coming up. So my first question was really, you talked at the top of the show about the visit to the dentist yesterday. You gotta explain that a little bit more. I'm dying to hear a little bit more about that.
Oh my, this dentist of mine has been a dentist of mine for, I bet 40 years. So we're kind of about the same age. He has signs up in his dental office which talk about growth. Looking at that sign took me to a wonderful quote, which I can't do exactly, from a biography of Wallace Stegner by Benson. And it attributes to Stegner the comment, "We keep growing because we have no choice not to grow. We keep growing because we have no choice not to grow." And that is a mindset, I think. And of course, I have to condition it with reasonably good health, because it's easy to say that, even though I've got some challenges. But we must continue to grow. And I think grow in terms of contribution. I think we all have to have a purpose, right? We've been driven by a purpose in business when we've been in our career. And if one loses a sense of purpose, and that being something they can do that's needed in the world, that they're good at, that they enjoy, that they feel rewarded by, these are the things that bring together a sense of continued growth. And it's important to find it. It's very important to find it. And sometimes it's easy. It's something that grows right out of what you've been doing up to now. Sometimes you need to poke around a little bit, see what your spouse has been doing, see what your church has been doing, and so on. But it's terribly important to find that. In any event, this dentist of mine pulls out his sheet. There it is. Yeah. And there in the center is this Japanese word, which I'd never heard of before. And forgive me, those of you know how to pronounce it, but I pronounce it Ikigai. Ikigai. And it is, as I understand it, life purpose. And around that sheet, which he handed me as I left there yesterday, are a couple of vectors. What do you love? What are you good at? What does the world need? And at the bottom it says, what you can be paid for. Well, it doesn't have to be paid for. I think I would broaden that to say what will be satisfying to you. And then that's but the other part of the thing was he gave me a good report. You don't have to go back. These are good words to hear from the dentist. You don't have to come back to your next meeting.
Oh, that's awesome.
I just Googled the sentence there, John, or the word that you said, Ikaji, and it comes right up, a Japanese concept meaning a reason of being, often translated to as a reason to wake up in the morning.
There you go. There you go. Are you guys one of those like me that really just couldn't wait for the morning to begin so you could get back to your work?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Isn't that a magical feeling?
It is.
Not that every day is perfect by any means at any point in life, but when you can say most days are good and I'm looking forward to them coming.
So John, you made a comment earlier. How many years again you've been out of the workforce?
Well, it depends what you mean by workforce, but from Procter & Gamble, I retired in 2003.
Okay.
From the Disney board, I retired in 2012.
Okay. So the Disney board doesn't really sound like a part-time job or a side hustle. So
No, but it was a hoot.
I bet it was. I bet it was. The question I have, though, is when you were just talking about when we were working and that we would get out of bed and have some purpose for the day. Well, now you've been out of the work world, so to speak, as we reference it. What is your purpose when you get out of bed in the morning that you embrace the day like you did when you worked?
Well, right now, over the course of the last 4 to 5 years, it's been helping my wife, who's been very challenged with stage 4 metastatic breast cancer. And by the way, she was helping me just as much as I was helping her, because I had hip surgery and knee surgery. Um, so we were kind of in this wonderful mode of helping one another and having coffee right there together. So that was a big part, of course, and praying that she'd beat the odds,
Mm.
which she did
Mm.
year after year. In the last year, it's been completing 2 books that she wanted written. One wonderful book, get it on Amazon, called Andiamo. It's a book that brings together 4 years of letter writing she did from our 4 years in Rome, 74 to 78, magical years, unbelievable years, which she writes about home to her parents every day. So it becomes a diary. And if you read Andiamo, you see the challenges she had as a 34-year-old woman with 3 children, 5, 4, and 8 months, with me out there working pretty much all the time, and her doing all the work to get this house set up on Appia Antica, which was a glorious experience. And again, brings me back to this point, if I could make a message in this, which is truly understanding those who are closest to us, fully understanding and listening. One of you said it well, being there for them. Um, you said it very well, better than I just have. Being there for them. And the same thing goes with your kids. It's so hard to understand how the world is being perceived by another person, even those closest to you. And it will never happen if you aren't listening carefully, empathetically. And I've always said, to me, the greatest gift we give another person is our time. It's our time. It's something my wife gave ceaselessly to everybody who called. She'd always say, I'm behind, I'm behind. Yet if someone called and had something they were concerned about, she'd spend 45 minutes on the phone with them in order to be of help to them. Whereas candidly, I might have spent 30 minutes and then been looking for a way to get off the phone. And she would not do that. She'd stay with them and then get off the phone and tell me I'm even further behind. Uh, but she'd have done it out of kindness and concern, and the other person knew it. And I've just received countless comments from people who I've never known who tell me about the difference she made in their life because of that relationship. There's one thing I don't want to miss in this podcast. For those of you who are so much younger than I, and some of you who are, I guess, Adam, in your case, still working in a job, and not we're all in a job. We just call it different things. And that is, take time with your spouse to take trips. Take trips. These years, you all look very healthy. That makes me very, very happy just to see you on this picture looking healthy. And it doesn't go on forever.
Yeah.
And to take advantage of the time when you have mobility, to be able to travel, to do whatever you want to do, and not be consumed by whatever it might be that would consume you, that would stop you from doing that, I would just urge you. We were very lucky in our life that we were able, in the last 10 years or so of our lives together, my wife and I, to make wonderful trips. We had Disney cruises, we had trips to vacation spots. And if we hadn't had those, our life would have been nothing like what it was. So I just urge everyone hearing this, take advantage of these years. I know it sounds pablum, but I say it from a voice of some experience with folks who didn't have that experience.
Yeah. I mean, John, you brought up a great point. I had a conversation with my wife, Jackie, just the other day. Being in the holidays that we are is like to get away for a day or two, and not necessarily going off into a big place. Just like we live here in the state of Ohio, there's a lot to see in Ohio, and it doesn't have to be a big city. I mean, what are some of the winter festivals that are going on in all these little towns and these little burgs that we just get away together and go experience that time together? And as you're sort of saying, the best time about it is that you're with one another and you're being able to just be together. And you
That's
can't replace
right,
that with
Curt.
anything.
There's a place not far from where we are in Adams County called Murphin Ridge.
Ah,
Uh, and my wife and I would go down there, just the two of us. I think we occupied every cabin they have there. I think they got 6 or 7 cabins. When we got done, I think we'd been in each one of them, and they got great meals. In any event, we go for 2 or 3 days.
Mm-hmm.
That was perfect.
Yeah,
Perfect.
I've been there. I know exactly what you're talking about. It's a beautiful place, and it's a great place just to be engaged with one another. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
right.
so encouraged, John, to hear you say those words about traveling. This was my first kind of year of redirection. I'm still doing a lot of things. I came out of a career that I loved. I loved work. I loved what I did. Got up every morning to be able to go out and be a story builder and work with companies and and travel all the time. But Fran enjoyed being here. She didn't want to go to Dubai. She didn't want to go to Shanghai at the time. But this is the year that we both got to travel a lot more and really kind of scratch that itch for adventure by getting out and getting away, but not having to think about coming back to something, not having just being able to be together and to be in the moment and to be present has been a wonderful gift. But it's spending time with her and getting to know her more and more and more. And I'm really encouraged by that, John. It's really it's
Yeah.
special, and we have time and we have health. That's the two things that we've got. God's blessed us with not having to worry about day-to-day money at this point. I told my boys, we're spending everything in adventures. You're not going to get anything when I die. There's nothing left. We're going to spend it together because we want to do things together and be present. And thank you for further encouraging me to continue to do that.
Stay at it.
John, when we were in show prep, one of the comments you made was when you started into your retirement that you had to spend some time rediscovering, I think was the word you used, rediscovering your wife Francie and getting to know her in a really meaningful and sincere way. Can you tell us about that? Can you tell us about the notion of getting to know your wife again when you started retirement?
Well, it wasn't really when I started retirement. Is the biggest change. It really is much more recent than that. It would be in the last year. It certainly became more. We had much more time together when I came into retirement, and we were able to make trips like to Murphin Ridge and Disney cruises and just with grandkids. And I wrote a memoir some years ago, and she was reading, and she found one year, like I think it was 1993. It doesn't matter what year. And I was talking in glowing terms about the year 1993, which was the year I was responsible for the international business of Procter and Gamble, and traveling 7% of the time, and it was an amazing time. The Berlin Wall had just come down, China was opening up, and Francie was with me on almost every trip. Hungary, Poland, Russia, and she made such an incredible difference on these trips. I don't mean just to me personally; that would have been true, but to the wives of the executives that we met. So I wrote about this in my memoir as really, what would I say, an unmitigated tale of satisfaction professionally and joy with my wife. And she invited me to read her journal from that same year, 1993. And I did, and I found that it had been much more difficult for her to realize. It was mind-boggling to see the difference. I mean, we had a really happy, great marriage. I think most people would look at our lives together that way. But this was very revealing. To your point, Adam, I won't beat it to death further. But it was very revealing. It gets back to the point that I made earlier, is being sure we're taking the time to listen to each other, and especially those closest to us, and not taking it for granted that the world is the same for them as it is for us. And that's not only true of our wife, it's true of everybody. It's true of our children, but it's true of every relationship at work or anywhere. What does the world look like through their eyes? And we talk about how hard it is to put ourselves in each other's shoes. Well, amen to that thought. You don't do that very well as individuals, and we don't do it very well as countries. And that's one of the reasons we got so damn many problems in this world today, is that we don't, never have, and aren't right now. And it's a lifelong lesson. And if there are the kinds of things if there was one I wish I'd known practiced better earlier, this would be it.
John, I think this is true. How many years did you serve Francie coffee every day in bed?
Oh, my goodness. I don't know, 20, 25, 30. I don't know, 40. Those were the best things we did. And when she was sick, I did it. She was in bed, and I was at the other end of the bed. And I not only served her coffee, I brought her eggs. I was pretty good at eggs, too.
Well, that little story impacted me years and years ago. It was a very simple thing that made a big impact on turning your sights to your wife, and that little thing just made a big difference, certainly to me, and I'm certainly sure to lots of others. So
it was a lot of fun. I wish I could be doing it now.
Yeah, I'm sure. I had one other question. What would surprise people to learn about you, John, that people don't realize maybe?
Maybe the story I just told about not being aware of what my wife was thinking.
Yeah.
That might be it.
John, I know that the passing of Francie is fairly recent, and I do appreciate you coming onto the podcast and sharing stories that brought her to life in my mind. I never met her, but hearing some of the wonderful things and how you speak so highly about her is really love. And thank you for creating a new awareness in my life. Because when I get done with this podcast, I'm going to go upstairs and give my wife a nice big hug and kiss. And I know that she's there with you. And even though, as you said earlier, how do I deal with this? Well, you have to figure it out. But she loves you, and I thank you so much for being with us today and being so open as you were. And it was a pleasure to hear your words.
Well, I'd just like to say one more thing about her. Every book I've written, I've made a dedication, and they've all been to her under the heading of she made everything possible. But I'd say this: she really made me who I am. Not entirely who I am. Like you grow up with a lot of roots. But if it weren't for her, I wouldn't be who I am. That's the God's honest truth. And that is an appreciation of people. That above all, appreciation of stories, appreciation of friendships. When she agreed to marry me, when I asked her, having 3 years of groveling pursuit to get her to marry me, in the back seat of a DC-9 in May of '67, I said to myself in my mind right then, nothing can go wrong. Nothing can go wrong. And it didn't matter, career-wise, anything. It wouldn't matter. And the greatest gift of confidence, and I carried this through my whole life, that I ever received from anyone was when she agreed to marry me. That was the greatest gift of confidence I ever received, and I received from her. And I continue to receive that, often quietly, but always present, looking out for me more than I did for myself, pointing out things. In any event, she's a great gift to my life, and she remains so. And I thank you for that reflection of going up and giving your bride a hug. If that's nothing else that comes from this podcast, you do that, and it's a good podcast.
I'm right there with you, Curt. I'm encouraged to do that. Fran's here. She's in from shoveling snow. I better get up there and give her a hug.
Yeah, you better give her a foot rub.
Talk about turning the work over to somebody else. There you go.
John, I'm really glad we got to spend so much time talking about Francie. I think a lot of people, a lot of podcasts would love to have you come and talk about all of the professional accomplishments. And I'm glad we got to touch on those. But to go and spend as much time as we did getting to know what that transition was like and your exploration and discovery of her, I think is just such an important thing for us to latch onto, and I'm really grateful for you for sharing all of that.
You're welcome, Adam.
It's been truly a gift.
Thank you so much, John.
And we'll catch you next time on the Redirect Podcast.
If you enjoyed today's episode, you can find more of our content on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, as well as Instagram. Have questions or want to connect? Drop us a line at info@redirect-u.com. We'd love to hear from you. Remember, there's purpose in your life, so find it and go do something about it.
Hey, I've got one more comment. The Redirect Podcast is presented solely for educational and entertainment purposes. We engage in an open, honest conversations about personal growth, life transitions, and the lessons we've learned through our own experiences. While we speak as experts in our own lives, we are not licensed therapists, medical professionals, or certified coaches. The content shared on the Redirect Podcast is not intended to be a substitute for professional advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the guidance of qualified professionals for any physical, mental, or emotional concerns that you may have. We're grateful to share this space with you and hope that our stories inspire reflection and connection. If you're in need of more support, we encourage you to connect with a trusted professional who can help.